Good morning. Thank you all for coming. We're going to have some fun breaking browsers, or specifically hacking autocomplete. So let's just talk a little bit about my background here, what I get to do for a living. Founder and CTO, Blackhat Security. I have a blog that I was fortunate enough to get an award. The 5th most popular Jeremiah says on Google. I have to beat The Prophet and the TV show. I think I can beat The Prophet because he's not generating any new material. And I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so that's kind of fun too. And some other things. But let's just get past that, shall we? So web security. Web security comes in two halves. My day job with Blackhat Security is the security of websites, hacking into them, finding vulns, things like that. The other half, it's kind of the night job, browser security. The way it works is in web security, a website must be able to defend itself against a hostile client. The browser must be able to defend itself against a hostile website. And we're going to build hostile websites to hack browsers. Now, why is browser hacking cool? Why I like going after it? It's because everybody in here, I would imagine, uses a browser of some kind. Everybody of the 1.6 billion people online use a browser to surf the web and do various other things. So that's 1.67 billion people surfing 206 million websites, which is why web security is such a daunting task. Now, what do the bad guys target, and what are the things that we're going to be looking at? Bad guys, at least in the browser market, I'm sure other places too, they'll target things with the largest market share. They'll exploit features that are enabled by default, preferably, and we're going to give bonus points for design flaws, which is what I spend my time going after. So let's look at the browser market share real quick and see who's surfing the web with what. So at top of the list, you'll actually see IE8 with about a quarter of the web. One of the things that were interesting to me is if you count IE6 and IE7 together as a singular browser, it is actually the most popular browser out there. Browsers that are, IE6 about a decade old now, is combined with IE6 and 7, most popular browsers out there. I did a cutoff at Safari down there at about 2.9%, Safari 4. So that's going to be our target set. These are the browsers that we're going to have a look at the security of autocomplete today. So to put this in real terms, so IE8, if you do the math between market share and number of people on the web, relative terms, IE8 has about nearly 500 million people using their product. IE6, another 250 million. Firefox doing very well at 351 million, so on and so forth. Just to give you kind of context of the exposure a browser vuln will have, the last census, 2010 census, said 307 million people in the US. So there's almost double the amount of IE8 users as population in the United States. So it's pretty serious. So we got security features in the browsers. We got sandboxes, code security, memory protection, blacklist. We even got green bars for SSL and EVSSL. We got these cool warnings on a phishing site. All these kind of things, when SSL fails, you guys have seen these things, right? All these things designed to protect us, and they protect us, to get some things. But we're going to bypass all those things and do malicious websites that won't pop up any warnings. So I follow web security a lot, and there's this one bug here that is probably about 8 to 10 years old now. Many of you have seen this before on CSS history stealing, where you look at the link color of a set of links, you can tell where a user's been and where they haven't been. And some of the really good proof of concept code that's been out there was doing 10,000 URLs a second, so it was really, really fast. Safari 5 has fixed this bug. Firefox 4, which is due out soon, will be fixing it as well, because they won't let you set properties in CSS in a visited pseudoclass, and the JavaScript method of doing it, the API of get property value, will lie to you. So this is going away. So this one is really cool because we want to know the user. When we target the user with a design flaw, we want to know where they've been so we can do interesting things. If we know they're a user of this website, whatever the website may be, we target them or target that website with a vuln, cross-site scripting, CSRF, you name it. One thing I just want to gloss over briefly is that we can still tell where a user is logged in. Image source equals some logged in URL, and a lot of times you can tell where a user is logged in. So we're not going to talk too much about this, or if at all, this is a blurb here. We don't know our user's bin anymore from this point forward when the new browsers come out, but we're still going to know where they logged in. So given those bugs are going to start going away, what I set out with the premise is I want to know your name, who you work for, where you live, and your email address right at the moment you visit a website, even though you've never visited the website before, let alone typed in any of this information. If we got this to work, it would be pretty powerful. Nice privacy violation. So who do you ask for this information? There's been some research out there with, I'm not going to pronounce that name. We're not going to ask Google or Facebook or even AT&T, but there has been research out there on de-anonymization and SMB cloaking. But also, these are far too hard, and we're not going to use these. We're going to ask our good friend Safari. Safari has a feature, and you might have seen this in the news a little bit, a leak just a little bit early. It has this option called autofill web forms that is enabled by default. When you set up a web form on a website, similar to that, that's all it really takes, it'll actually pull out information out of your Me card in your browser. So this is how it works. So when I'm going to demo it for you. Given the demo god's smile. To show you the actual behavior of it. All right, so if you just type in the first letter of your name, it actually pulls it out of the Me card. You go to the next one here, I work for Blackhat, and it fills it out. It pulls it right out of the Me card, so you can only get who the user actually is. So one way to look at this particular thing is if you can simulate these button clicks, you can actually force the browser to give up this particular information. So this is how easy it is, really, to do this stuff. I'm going to dynamically create, let me go back to the slides momentarily just to show you the logic of it. That's about the extent of the sophistication of the code. I'm just creating JavaScript text events on some website, just loop through A through Z on your name, dynamically create the form fields with the preset values, cycle through the alphabet for your name or whatever it is, and profit, steal the data with JavaScript. Real simple. So we'll hit the start button here, and you can see how this works. It's that slow for demonstration purposes. It's only visible for demonstration purposes. We can actually use cascading style sheets, the opacity, to make it completely invisible. The interesting about this particular demo is it's just JavaScript code. If you wanted to land this on a whole lot of users, all you would have to do is spend $100 and send it out to about 100,000 users on an advertising network and just land JavaScript on everybody's browser out there. And this would happen instantaneously. So again, this information comes out even though you've never been to the site and you've never entered this information, and it is on by default. If you look at the back of the metrics, this is 64 or so million people that are vulnerable to this one. It's vulnerable on Safari 4 and 5 until the day before yesterday when they patched it. Anybody here from Apple Security? Figures. Okay, sure, no problem. The text events, I only had like 24 hours and I was drinking last night. The text events, when you enter a text event, it won't autofill in a text event. It will respond to normal button clicks, but not JavaScript text events. I really would have preferred they would have just called me and say how best to fix it, because you have this button called tab, right? And let me show you how this works. Let me go over to Safari on Windows, because I'm running the patch version on Windows. 1 second here. Let's pull that up. Actually, you just have to take my word for it here, okay? Because that'll be slow. So, J, tab. That works on the patched one. There's some trickery that's going to go into it to make the exploit code work, but give me time.
Does it still work if the private browsing is turned on in Safari?
Didn't check. So we'll see. So that works Windows, Mac, whatever. All right. Let's go back to our slide work. Now, that's just name, address, telephone number, so I know where your name, where you live, where you work, title, email address. Cool for phishing and all sorts of cool stuff. What about stealing other autofill data? Data that is was in fact previously entered. Search terms, credit card numbers, secret questions and answers, those sorts of things. For that, we have to go to IE 6 and 7. Nearly 1/3 of the web still uses these particular browsers, so it's quite powerful. Again, that's about 500 million people. Internet Explorer, I'm going to show you some demos here. Internet Explorer 8 is safe on this particular one, but IE 6.7 is not. Autocomplete, the way it works is when you enter an email address, for instance, on site A, name equals email, you type that in, you hit enter. If you go to any other website, so website B, C, D, whatever, if they have an input form that's named email as well, you'll get an autocomplete drop-down like on the right side there on any other website. That feature there is not enabled by default, but there's a gotcha there. I'll explain that in a second. Now, I'm going to show you here, let's see if I can get the demo up and working. Let's see here. All right. This is just a plain web form that I'm going to submit to myself. Let's say fname, Blackhat, email, whatever. Let's hit submit. Great. No, it doesn't want to submit. Good. Submit this. Now, if I put my name in here, now the behavior on the button click is down. The down arrow, down, will drop down the autocomplete. You hit down again, you select it, and you hit enter, and it lands in there. Good enough? Now I'm going to fill out a few more of these. My email at something.com. Query strings. Send that in there. I'm going to show you, I have Craigslist up. Hi Blackhat, right? Put that in there. Good. No results. Oh. All right, so we put Hi Blackhat in there, so you can kind of see. Is that in there? Yeah. So Hi Blackhat, so it's in there. So down, down, down. Now, we're going to simulate that in JavaScript. You hit enter, and you simulate down, down arrow text events, keystroke events in the browser, and you pull out all the information in autocomplete. All you need to do is have a list of the well-known ones in IE. So let's go back to the chart real quick. Actually, so that's the extent of what. Let me go back here. Where were we? That's the code there. There was some little trickery you had to do in the source code because JavaScript moves faster than the UI, so you have to add some delay in there, but it's nothing major. I have a list of about, when you saw the demo there, that was about, it goes through about 50 name value form names in about 10 seconds or so, and you just pull out all the information and save it off-site somewhere. Any questions so far? Yes, sir. Can you, so the question was, can you hide the dropdown? I have not been able to. It's actually not part of the DOM. It's actually part of the GUI, and it's very much topmost. You can move it all around and things like that. So that is, you will see that visibility a little bit. Depends on what you're after, but yeah, you will see it. So again, you can uncover search terms, credit card number, CVEs, aliases, contact information, basically anything you might want. Now, I mentioned that feature is not on by default. The rub is that when you fill out a non-password form, it asks you if you want to turn on autocomplete. You just fill out the form, and it pops up this little one, and nice default yes. You click yes, and it turns on really quickly. So it's hard to say if it's 100. It's definitely not 100% exposure on this one in IE 6 and 7, but I'm sure it's a significant volume. I didn't have the guts to put it out there on the wire and measure. All right, so we've picked on Safari, IE 6 and 7. Let's pick on Firefox. Firefox, I have not been able to find a way to read autocomplete information, but we can write to it a lot. Why is this useful? Well, you can frame people, make it appear that autocomplete, they've did something or said something that they really didn't. So let's say their email address or their search terms, they search for something, something that Google would want to know about. You submit that, and you just post it. This is just a regular form, and you post it to an iframe, visible or invisible, it doesn't matter. And what happens is, in Firefox, it actually has a pull down, and you can just start spoofing this. You can actually make this happen. Now, so you can spoof it one at a time with whatever you want. I was doing cool stuff with ASCII art earlier. But let's say you wanted to fill it. Now, let's stop that for a second. And you can kind of see, I just put a bunch of random data in there and it just starts filling it up. You can actually get 200 characters per field, 100 fields at a time. That fast. So it fills up rather quickly. It's not enough data to actually kill the browser, so it's definitely not a high severity issue. But Mozilla, actually, there was some issues with it, which I'm not allowed to say, but they are patching it now as a security bug. So, depending on the browser, IE6, Safari, or whatever you're doing, you have email addresses and things like that. But what we really want is we want access to accounts. Now, fortunately, most all the major websites out there take email addresses as usernames, so email addresses are pretty easy to steal. So we want to go after 1 billion browser users. Okay? We want their password. Now, passwords have autocomplete as well. When you type in your username and password, now I'm going to ask this question knowing full well everybody's going to lie. How many people here, raise your hands if you use password autocomplete? Remember, so a few generous people, the rest of you are not telling the truth. When you type in a username and password, it'll prompt you. So we haven't picked on Google yet. Now, the thing about passwords, which is different than normal autocomplete, passwords are domain specific, meaning regular autocomplete data shares data across domains. Passwords do not. So in order to steal a password, you have to get a password form that you control to land on the target domain. Now, what is the most prevalent vulnerability out there in the world? Cross-site scripting, right on. What you have to do, if you could target a user, if you know where they've been, you have their email address, and they have remembered their password on that site. Pick your favorite site, Facebook, Google, whatever. You just use your JavaScript payload to create a form, and you pull it out. Let me show you how this works. So we haven't picked on Chrome yet, and Chrome is vulnerable like many browsers are. Pull that over. Oop, too big. All right. I'm on the victim domain. This could be any website that might be vulnerable to cross-site scripting, probably all of them. My email at somewhere.com and my password. Login. Right? You guys have all seen this one, right? This little drop down here. Very easy for people to say, save password. Good, done, over. So now if I go back, I don't want that to happen. Now, that is the payload. That's the extent of, again, of the sophistication we're talking about here. It's going to create a login form. Notice where the payload is. This is on Hacker. We're going to do a cross-site scripting vulnerability here on victim. Calls a script tag. Chrome steal password. It didn't save it. Did I hit the wrong button? Did I hit the wrong button, save password? Oh, never mind. I see what happened. So let's try that one more time, shall we? Pops it up. Cross-site scripting. Actually, the cross-site scripting payload creates the email, creates the username and password field, and it just grabs it out of the form fields and pulls it out. So think of it this way. Again, you target a user. Let's say you target a Facebook user who has saved their password on Facebook, Facebook phone, click on a link, and you grab their password right out of the browser. Yeah, it's crypted on the file system. It's not crypted in the DOM. Really easy to steal passwords that way. Is that spooking everybody out, or are you not impressed, or what? So this will work very well in Firefox and Chrome. It sort of works in Safari and IE. There's actually some mitigations there in those particular browsers where it technically works, just not as powerful. It's not as universal. There is a feature that's hidden in About Config in Firefox that you can turn on. There's a feature called sign-on.autofill forms. It doesn't represent itself in the GUI, but you can turn this on, meaning it won't automatically fill in your password unless you do some GUI commands. So write that down. If you're using Firefox, go turn that on. Now, we have all this information, like say, theoretically speaking, we're the bad guy, right? We've put this out there, all this malware code, JavaScript malware stuff out on the wire. We've put it into an advertising network. And what we want to do is, so let's say all these guys patch these particular issues we're talking about. How do we convert this into a long-term issue that even if it's patched, it really doesn't matter? What the bad guy might do is they put this out on an advertising network, they steal the person's real name, email address, and respond with a cookie on the site. So now their email address, standard web bug, email address name, I give you a cookie back on whoisthisperson.com. They can actually set up a web service. Now they don't have to send out that code out anymore. Let's say website, pick your website that you might go to, and you go to that particular website and they want to know who you are, but you've never been there, you've never entered information, you're fully patched. You would do a basic JavaScript include, third-party web widget, and you call whoisperson and say, who is this person? And since you're going to send those cookies across the wire to who is this person, they can send back a JSON object or something like that, and will tell you who you are. So unless all the users dump their cookies, we don't really know if this problem goes away. True, we don't know if anybody's actually used these techniques, but that's the paranoid model there. Unless people dump their cookies, we can't really be sure that people still can't figure out who you are. So I got the idea, okay, we can ask people to delete their cookies as a privacy mechanism or as a way to solve this particular problem. And the regular user way to get rid of cookies depends on the browser. You just do the show cookies option, right? And you select all the cookies and you delete them. I wanted a better way, a hacker's way. All the browsers have this particular problem. I have proof of concept code running on Firefox, Safari, and Chrome. There is a global cookie cap. Now this is technically known out there. I put the references in there. This is technically known, but not really well talked about. Here's how it works. In Firefox specifically, there's a global cookie cap. You can only store 3,000 cookies in the browser at any given amount of time. You go to 3,001, an older cookie is deleted off the stack. So what you want to do is you want to be able to find some way to set 3,000 cookies really, really fast. How do you do this? You set up one domain, badguy.com, 60 subdomains, 1.badguy.com, 2.badguy.com, whatever the case may be, and you set 50 cookies per domain. That's the code to do it. Grinds in the system, loads up 3,000 cookies, and all your other cookies are deleted off the system. Let me show you how this works. Let me log in to a Yahoo account. Where's Firefox here? So we're going to load up a bunch of cookies. CNN.com. Let's see who else. News.com. Right, so we got a couple of cookies. Let's show you the cookies in my browser right here. And I'm going to log into Yahoo right now. Everybody cover your eyes. No, I'm not going to remember my password. All right, now I'm logged into Yahoo. Now here's the cookie eviction script. Just runs really fast, so watch how this works. Watch the, I know a lot of you can't see, but watch the taskbar at the bottom. Oop, that work? Maybe not. For some reason, it did not work. fail demo. All right, that demo failed. Sorry about that. So that will run. That should run in about 2.5 seconds. Load up 3,000 cookies in my browser, delete all the other ones, and it will automatically log you out of Facebook, remove all your Google tracking cookies and everything else. Think of it like a mass logout button, right? Go to your site. You can actually purposely force everybody's cookies out of the system. It's really fun when it works. This will work again in Firefox, Safari, and Chrome. There is a fix going in place on some of the browsers. Mozilla is well aware of this one. They're going to make it so it's a $300 hack, meaning that you're going to have 50 domain names to make this work. No big deal. So what have we got so far? We, depending on your browser, and you got to think of it this way. The people in this room aren't necessarily the victims that the bad guys are targeting. They're going to target, family members, enterprise users that are still on IE6 and things like that. Those are the targets that we're after. So what do we do to help start solving this problem? What you can do here, advice when you go back to work, disable autocomplete in the browser as much as you can tolerate. Remove persistent data, history, form data, cookies, local storage. If you're using Firefox no script, 1Password, still working with that particular extension. And if you're a website owner, form autocomplete equals off will prevent your form fields from saving in the autocomplete data, so you can help protect your users just a little bit. We've gone through everything. Questions? No questions? Seriously? All right, well, everybody's thinking of a question. All this material is on the blog already, all proof of concept code, videos, information, everything else. No questions, really? Yes, sir.
Is there a way for our community to force browser vendors to get rid of the stupid save my password button?
Is there a way to force browser vendors to get rid of that option? You can ask them not to have it there by default, but I found no way to force browser vendors to do anything. Their mission is market share, not security necessarily, unless it impacts market share. All right. Thank you very much for your time.